Hey, Shawn, do you feel like I feel like Devin Haney needs Shakir Stevenson and Tank Davis because he has
I
all the
think
belts and he's still Tank's still the guy. And I don't think Tank belt is real.
I
It's not right.
think I don't know. We didn't get the light. That's crazy.
Don't run
I
light.
think that I think that I think that when Devin beat Lomachenko again, depending on how he beats Lomachenko, I think that that is a humongous statement. A humongous statement beating Cambosis twice in Australia, but then people always want bigger and better than that, So
Mm-hmm.
I think for him, it's just every fight now has to be a step of fight, and each fight has previous.
So I don't know. Do you think who has the best chance of beating Shakur right now? Is it Devin?
Tank.
Could be Devin, could be Tank. I think, dude, it's interesting. Tank is my number one at 135. I think he's the
Really?
hardest to beat at 135. But I also think that that was before Shakir came into the picture. Man, sheesh,
Hmm.
man, it's hard to say.
It's like
I
changes every
don't
day.
think. Yeah, I think it's actually harder to say what the opposite. Like I don't think that Lomachenko is the guy at 135 anymore.
Mhm.
I don't. I think that Tiafimo belongs at 140, not 135. It's harder to say things like that than opposed to saying who can beat who.
Yeah. I just want to mention this story. This I Andy got me to go to the top ranked card for when Tiafimo fought Sandor Martin, and I got to interview Tiafimo, and it kind of like changed my outlook because this was the first time. This was the first time I ever interviewed a fighter before they were going into a fight, and I interviewed Tiafimo. He didn't know he doesn't know I know you guys. I didn't mention anything, but he was one of the coolest dudes. Like I was like, can I ask a few questions? And he was like, of course. Like I was with nobody. I just had my camera out. But it's just interesting to see because he seemed in such a good mental
I'm gonna
state.
stay here, finish this.
Um, and he just seemed like the calmest I've ever seen him. And I was really confident
I'm
for
gonna
that
stay
he was
here.
going to win that fight. And he didn't have the performance that I wanted from him. But that just goes to show like you can't really take a lot from what a fighter says before the fight and make it impact your judgment, for how the fight actually plays out. Do you ever think about that? Like the how a fighter answers questions in an interview, it's not always, indicative of how he's going to perform.
Always,
Yeah.
always. And I think people probably know now. Every fighter lies. Every fighter says that they had the greatest camp ever.
Yeah.
That's not always true. Um, every fighter, it, all those things, So it's beneficial to interview fighters before a fight because not everything is a complete lie. However, there's always some.
Oh, you're cutting out, Shawn.
Can't hear you.
I think there's a lot of things that he doesn't say before a fight. I'm sorry, got me now, right?
Yeah, could you go back like maybe like 5 seconds to what you were saying? Just start over
Oh,
for a second.
yeah, I'm sorry.
All right.
I
Very
said,
good.
yeah, I think that there's always some underlining things that a fighter does not say. I'm not saying that everything a fighter says is a lie,
Mhm.
but especially in the case with Tio. I mean, we see now that he's trying to manage a lot in between fights. He's trying to manage a lot through the course of a camp, and it weighs down on him. And he will do a lot of interviews and put a smile on his face, and he genuinely probably feels that way, but he knows in the back of his mind there's things he's not disclosing to us, and then it shows up on fight night. So that's really it's tough when you interview a fighter before a fight because a lot of times there's things that aren't said that may show up in the on fight night.
Yeah, because I guess I was just really naive going into it because I was like hearing I was around his like his entourage, his team. I interviewed his dad and like his guys were just saying the thing that's different now about this fight is that, he's happy. And then I was really thinking, so we're probably going to get the best performance out of Tiafimo. And then we see kind of, I would just say it was just a horrible matchup for Tiafimo, in my opinion. I just thought you got to,
exactly.
if you're matching up Tiafimo with a guy, you got to put him with somebody that he can dance with, somebody, a good dance partner so that he can look good. Why would you put him against a guy? We saw what he did to your boy, and we saw what he did to, Mikey Garcia. Why would you put Tiafimo in with a guy like that? Like, that's what I don't understand. What was the matchmaking behind that? They're just throwing him in there saying, he's athletic, he should beat the guy. That tells me
Well,
that
you know what,
matchmaker doesn't know much.
Well, I was watching the fight and I was thinking the exact same thing. Like we should never been watching this, but it is what it is. So now he's got to deal with it. I thought he won the fight, but you could definitely see that he wasn't completely prepared for Sandor, and that's the kind of guy who's going to come in the ring and do a lot of everything, And so it was a bad matchup. But the other side of that too is when you have a guy like Tio who can't get in the ring with the world champion. It's like now you're bringing in names like Sandor, guys who can't break an egg, guys who are going to really challenge you but not beat you, and it's just going to be an ugly night. And so I think that's another thing when you're used to seeing somebody be so what's the word I want to use? Shit, it's on the tip of my tongue. when you used to seeing guys be so damn words on the tip of my tongue. Guys have their way. When you used to seeing guys just have their way and against everybody, and then you don't see that, and then you see it again. It's like now you're asking your these questions are proposed about Tio. Well, also consider the guys he's in the ring with. These are tough guys that aren't going anywhere, and it just kind of is what it is. So I think that's another thing is he just has some really tough dance partners too.
Yeah. What do you think, Ant? What do you think about Tio?
Like I said, I'm worried about the guy's mental. I feel like that's playing a big part of his career. Because what 2 years ago we was talking about this guy being one of the elite guys. Now it's like we see it, but we question ourselves. Like, what are we seeing here? And it's like we see it in UTO, but it's like I told Shawn, I think he needs another set of eyes in his corners. No disrespect to his dad, but I just think another set of eyes would help him out a lot. And just boxing is mentally fatigued. I've seen it in Shawn, and obviously physically fatigued. So it takes a lot to be in this sport. And what he was the undisputed champion at one time, had all the belts.
Yeah.
So he went from the high horse and got knocked off. And when they were up there, they were riding their high horse. So losing that's mentally, I think that took a lot out of that kid.
I mean, it's tough. Look at Zab. Zab grew up very quickly because of his outside life and things like that. But then when he had all of these, the only thing Zab ever wanted in life was to be a world champion and be world everything. He got it at such a young age before he was fully mature. And so a lot of issues that Zab was dealing with was just due to immaturity, So when you talk about boxing, man, it is so hard to determine how much is too much, how soon is too soon, and the list goes on. And I think for Tio, definitely is the case where too much came too soon and things he wasn't fully mature and ready for. And then the other side of that is you're not fully mature and ready to lose the way he lost and answer to the media and things like that. And on top of that, he's got to do it all himself because there's nobody that's coaching him through answering these questions. And a lot of these questions are very penetrating questions that are penetrating to the heart, penetrating to the mind. And now you got professional journalists and things like media people who are asking some really tough questions to a young man that's never been put in this position before, So I'm sure Tio was asked questions that he never even thought of himself. Now, guess what? Now that penetrating question in the moment has started to penetrate him day after day, month after month, week after week. And now we're seeing what happens to a fighter who's come a long ways in a short amount of time. and if you're not fully mature, what it can do to you, you know?
Yeah, that's so true. But like, do you think that they're I want to word this correctly because I'm a big fan of Tio and his father, like everything that they've accomplished. But do you think, in a sense, that they're kind of holding on to that Lomachenko when maybe a little bit too much? Because I interviewed his father and I'd ask him about what he thinks about Tiafimo and his how he fares up against everybody else. And his answer, it's kind of funny because he gives the same answer to this question. He's like, "We beat Lomachenko. You think we can't beat this guy?" Like he says the same. He basically uses that for every you know experience, which I think is a good thing in terms of confidence. But what do you kind of take from that?
Listen, after my loss to actually no, it was after my draw to Julio Diaz, and there's a point. After I lost to Julio Diaz, my mentality was go back to the old school, go back to how you used to do things, go back to everything you were before that draw,
Mm-hmm.
because who you were in that draw is not who you are. And I'm saying that because I believe that if they feel that way, well, we beat Lomo, you think we can't beat this person. We beat Lomo, you think we can't beat that person. Well,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? You got to go back to who you were before you beat Loma, because the momentum that you had going into the camp with Loma, the mentality that you had in before Loma, all that you had in that fight with Loma is why you fought the way that you fought against Lomachenko. And so
Mm-hmm.
now you have not fought that way against Loma. If you keep returning back to, well, we beat Loma this, we beat Loma that, then guess what? Go back to how you were doing things before you fought Loma. If you were sleeping on the floor before you fought Loma, start sleeping
Yeah.
on the floor. If you were eating sardines out of a can before you fought Loma, go back to eating sardines.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that you were doing that made you that great against Lomachenko, there was something in that recipe. You got to find it.
Yeah, I think that's good advice too. Go back to your roots. What kind of got you to the dance?
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna do it for another Nasfight Media guy. Well, that's gonna do it for another Nasfight Media. Well, that's gonna do it for another Nasfight Media video, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been your boy Manabong with another video. Hope you guys enjoyed it all. Thank you guys for the constant support. Salute to y'all always. It's been your boy.